You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
And welcome back to another Warrior Creed live stream with me, the Radical Majid Nawaz. And as you can see, we are still broadcasting to you live from Tennessee. This is obviously not our regular studio, but a different room from last week, at least. And on this New Year's Eve, 31st of December 2024, we bring you a stream that is going to sum up the eventful online debate that occurred this week that filtered through, of course, into eventually, late as always, into corporate media as well. And the topic should be on your screens right about now. You can see there from the image of a Trojan horse with the words over the top of it, best and brightest. Inside the Trojan horse, it says tech slave labor. And at the doors, two people pulling the Trojan horse into the presumably the country of the United States of America with the phrase "Americans are lazy." And the title for the stream: Elon Musk tells MAGA to F your own face, true, and censors users in order to promote more Indian immigration. This week, for those of you who have followed the debate, has been a very eventful week on Elon Musk's platform, Twitter. And the reason is because we have crossed the Rubicon. We have arrived at a moment in time where MAGA, the Trump base, the Make America Great Again voter base for President Donald Trump, known as MAGA, have finally come to see something that our regulars will be aware of on Radical Media via the Warrior Creed live stream and the Radical Dispatches, the written articles we put out once a week for many years since, in fact, he purchased Twitter. We at Radical Media have been warning that Elon Musk is a Trojan horse. He is indeed a globalist technocrat that seeks to turn Twitter, his dream is to turn Twitter into the everything app, lock users in with an internal economic system within Twitter, forcing users to become financially dependent on what he calls his revenue shares. And then from there, once he's used that bait to hook users in, control the discourse by unfairly promoting certain accounts via his algorithm while maintaining very severe and heavy shadow bans on other accounts that do not promote his narrative, his preferred narrative, and of course, punitively punish those who don't subscribe to his views or criticize something too much by either demonetizing them or banning them. That's our view, has been our view on Elon Musk for a few years here on Radical Media. And certainly since he bought Twitter, it's been our published view. But this week, online, for those of you who've been following the debate, if you haven't, don't worry, we're going to summarize everything for you. That view has effectively become mainstreamed across MAGA. People have had their eyes opened by Elon Musk himself, it must be said, as to the true nature of this man's intentions and the big tech cabal that he works with, their intentions too, otherwise known pejoratively these days as the big tech bros. The debate began over an obscure, not so obscure, but for most people, obscure visa application avenue called H-1B, which is for talented migration into the United States of America. And essentially, Musk used Christmas Day to announce via his socials that he wanted to double the number of migrants into the United States using the H-1B process. Here is one of his interventions on that, dated the 25th of December. You can see it, Christmas Day. Musk says, no, We need more like double that number yesterday. The number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the USA is far too low. Think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. That enables the whole team to win. MAGA, and I think in this case, though, a generalization, it's a fair one to make. It was most of MAGA, in fact, can be described as the MAGA movement that came out against Trump on this tweet. MAGA took an issue with Musk on this, primarily on 2 points. First, that the H-1B migration visa system that Musk himself relies on for Tesla, that this system, and for Twitter, by the way, apparently from the photos that have been published, that this system is broken and is being abused simply to bring in more economic migrants into the UK for cheap labor for large corporates, forcing a downward pressure on wages. And these migrants, of course, may be equally or even less talented than domestic workers, but are willing to accept a lower wage and, of course, are willing to undercut domestic workers because they're more desperate for migration to a developed country. And so that the system is being abused. It is not being used to find the best and the brightest. It's being used to find the cheapest and the more desperate for the same jobs from abroad. So that has been a major backlash against Musk's post that, again, you can see on your screens. And the second backlash is the comparison Musk made there with a football team. MAGA saying that the country is not analogous to a football team. The purpose of a country, what does it mean to win? The winning isn't economic growth. Winning isn't making money for large corporates. A country has culture. A country has values that rest upon ideals. And you could technically win the growth game and make more money while losing out on your culture, your ideals, and your identity. Both of those criticisms against Musk's point are valid. We're going to demonstrate that through the course of this stream. And people began, of course, reminding over the course of this debate, everybody, what actually started the debate, despite what then transpired, which we're going to get to. But what started the debate was that we've just discussed. And as Ashley St. Clair on her social says, we're reading it for you now, it's on your screen, it's critical to remember this conversation happened because of a call to expand the H-1B visa program and remove caps entirely. Does anybody advocating for this have a number for where the H-1B visas stop? Is the quota based solely on demand from the tech industry? Which companies get to have a say in this quota? What qualifies as an exigent enough need to increase this number? Now, this is an incredibly important topic for MAGA because, of course, there are certain core issues that define the MAGA movement, the Trump base, and among them, leading among them, it would be difficult to argue against, is immigration. Immigration is one of the defining traits of the MAGA movement. And for Musk, who is now part of Donald Trump's future administration, to come out and ask for doubling legal immigration, few would disagree that undocumented migrants need to be regulated and stopped. But for Musk to come out in favor of doubling legal migration wouldn't, at least in spirit, be consistent with what MAGA thought they were voting to elect Donald Trump for. And that was to get a handle on this, to at least temporarily slow the thing right down, legal immigration, so that we can understand how this broken system has been working, and in the meanwhile, shore up the eroded culture, identity, and values of the nation. Just today, the UK equivalent, if there is one, for Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, has put out a New Year's video from Blenheim Palace, the birthplace of Winston Churchill, in which even Nigel Farage, the leader of the UK Reform Party, who will, by the way, as we've said here on Radical Media, eventually become Prime Minister of the UK sooner than most people think. Don't worry for now how that's going to happen, but it will happen. Even Nigel Farage in his New Year's Eve message today, you can go and check it out for yourselves. We reposted it on at Majid Nawaz on Twitter, or you can just go to his own profile at Nigel_Farage on Twitter. You can see that. Even Nigel Farage has pledged to completely reduce legal immigration. So a core issue of MAGA has been how to bring these numbers down. And yet here comes Musk and his big tech cohorts demanding that we double the number of legal migration through H-1B, the visa application system. This, of course, outraged MAGA because, as we say, it's been a core issue of MAGA to get a handle on immigration so as to stop, slow down, and perhaps even reverse the erosion of our cultural identity in the United Kingdom, in the case of Nigel Farage, and in the US in the case of Donald Trump. It's also indisputable that the system's being abused. MAGA has pointed this out. It's also indisputable that Donald Trump in the 2016 term has made it very clear on video that he doesn't agree with the current system. It must be reformed and it's being abused. This much isn't in doubt, which is why MAGA was so outraged at Elon Musk's proposal. Now, Musk at that stage, when he perhaps realized that he just alienated the MAGA base before Trump even came to office on a core issue that defines MAGA, you would have thought that Musk, with a finger on the pulse as he should have, would have retreated. But he didn't retreat. And that's what we're going to demonstrate over the course of this stream. He doubled down and began insulting MAGA. And of course, MAGA began fighting back and the entire thing exploded. It went over into corporate media, who began reporting on a MAGA civil war. If you really understand what's going on, it's not a civil war. It's MAGA stopping a Trojan horse having too much influence inside the MAGA movement. If you've been following radical media, you know that we've been aware and alert to this since Musk purchased Twitter, before he supported Elon Musk and called himself Dark MAGA, which again, as most things these people do, is an appropriation of what we've been doing for a long time. The shadow on socials, referencing people to their shadow selves, asking people to understand that any action they take will have a reaction from those that they victimize. And of course, so on and so forth, Jungian psychology, it's well known. And so Musk, you would have thought, would recognize all of this, but no, he doubled down. MAGA fought back. Traditional corporatist media started reporting on a MAGA civil war. And the net positive from all of this is that MAGA openly and in a way that is now irreversible, became exposed to the Trojan horse that is Musk and generally the globalists among his big tech allies. The debate proceeded. Here's Li Fang on his socials, summarizing how the abuse occurs. The H-1B visa program is loved by tech companies because it helps hold down salaries of ultra-high paid engineering jobs, and foreign workers on these visas are way less likely to unionize or agitate for better work conditions. Both parties enable the abuse of the program. So you can see here, and you're beginning to see through the course of these commentaries, how and why H-1B and generally the legal immigration debate is a core MAGA issue. Because if you're anti-globalist, your main critique of society through the globalist era, at least let's say until Trump's third term election, which is what we're about to witness now with his third term coming in January 2025. Third, because of course, Biden and the globalists cheated him out of the rigged 2020 election win. Reference Hunter Biden laptop, and you can pursue the rest for yourselves there. But if you're MAGA, then anti-globalism and curtailing legal immigration is a core facet of your identity, because globalism seeks to erode the national culture and the national identity through legal and illegal immigration at a pace that is faster than the national culture and identity is able to keep up with, thereby eroding community, eroding identity, eroding culture, and eroding family due to creating a highly mobile, socially mobile workforce that is atomized and moves around chasing wages. you end up with no nation state. What you end up with is empire run by corporates with various poles of that empire, depending on where these corporates are in each country. And people start coalescing around for wage. They start coalescing around corporates instead of the nation. And the world is then forever run by profit-hungry corporate multinationals. That is globalism. Run, by the way, those corporate multinationals run by tech and AI. Globalist technocracy is what this constant stream of legal migration and chasing the wage and therefore chasing growth and consumerism, that's what it will create. It will create a globalist technocracy. Now, that's why it's a core issue for MAGA. We've just read from a post by social media user Lee Fang summarizing how it has a downward pressure on wages. And we're going to bring you some data now. This is contrary to what you may have assumed when jumping on this stream or listening to the Warrior Creed podcast back, this is a serious labor rights issue. This isn't about somehow grinding an axe against Musk personally. This is a serious anti-globalist core issue of MAGA. It involves labor rights. It involves checking rampant consumerism. It involves checking a downward pressure on wages. It involves preserving communities and thereby preserving culture and identity and family. These are core issues that literally define the MAGA movement. Now, we're going to show you some data on how it's been having a downward pressure on wages. So have a look at what's on your screens now by social media user Robert Sterling. We'll publish all of these receipts as usual in the written version of this stream, the Radical Dispatch, which will contain all of these receipts with the links to the original sources, and you can check all of this out for yourselves. Just go to Radical Media, which is on majidnawaz.substack.com. Become a premium subscriber for access to this Warrior Creed podcast with the written receipts, so you can check everything for yourselves. But have a look at this from Robert Sterling. He says, you can see that salaries are disproportionately weighted toward the lower bands. 17% are less than $75,000. That's in the blue. We're going to show you the graphic in a minute. 21% are $75,000 to $100,000. That's in the orange. 22% are $100,000 to $125,000. That's in the pink. And 15% are $125,000 to $150K or $1,000. That's in teal. And in other words, less than 75% of jobs are paying less than $150,000. Only 25% are $150,000 plus, and of those, only 2.5% are $250,000 plus, which is in the purple. This is demonstrating with data how high legal migration in the name of H-1B is having a downward pressure on wages, outpricing domestic US workers, or in the UK, domestic UK workers, to cheaper migrants who may not even be as skilled or better skilled. They're just willing to do the same job for cheaper because they're more desperate. This downward pressure is represented, downward pressure on wages is represented in the graphic that is on your screens. Now, we read just for you just now what that graphic means. So this is just the image of what we read. Again, we'll publish all these receipts in the Radical Dispatch for you tomorrow. By outpricing domestic workers, citizens, you end up creating poverty domestically. The rich gap, poor divide increases, with citizens being the poor ones and the wealthy ones being those globalist technocrats who've migrated from various countries and have stable jobs because they're more desperate to do this work. And of course, hope for the promised citizenship that comes eventually if you've been around long enough. Continuing, this is a profile by US Tech Workers, which is a tech workers union profile on social media, saying a similar thing. We're going to read it for you. Some companies, including Apple and Cisco, source H-1B workers through third-party Indian IT outsourcing firms, hiring rudimentary workers with questionable qualifications as contractors to replace American employees. The outsourcing firms profit by pocketing the difference between what they pay the H-1B workers and what Apple pays for the contracts. You can see the graphic underneath that. These are the, we're going to read the description of the graphic. Foreign H-1B workers, not just headed to tech companies, subheading, new Department of Labor data shows companies that contract with outside firms that apply for H-1B visas. Banks and telecommunication companies are at the top. Wells Fargo and Co. at the top there, Verizon second, AT&T third, Apple fourth, Citigroup fifth, and so on. These are companies that contract to third-party Indian firms to bring in Indian H-1B workers. Those third-party firms pocket the difference between the lower wage that the Indian workers are accepting and the advertised American wage. That's how the deception unfolds. The tech companies or the Verizon or the telecoms companies or the banks advertise the job at the market rate so that you don't get to find out that they're paying less and undercutting you in price. The third-party contractors sell that job that the companies have advertised to an Indian H-1B, and it is Indians. We're going to get to the data. It is Indians. That's the cheap labor being brought in. They sell that job to Indian tech workers who take a lower wage than the advertised wage, and because they're desperate to move to the United States of America or the UK. And the difference between the advertised wage and the lower wage that the H-1B workers accept, that difference is pocketed by the third party in India that finds those Indian workers, and that third party pockets the difference in the advertised wage and the accepted wage by the worker. It pockets that difference as profit. The worker moves to America, is desperate, so stays in that job, isn't unionized because they're a migrant, stays in that job, has no family as a support network in America, is therefore desperate and stays in that job, and will therefore be an obedient wage slave and do the job for cheaper, will work any hours, overtime, because they're alone in a foreign country and they're glad to be there because they've just migrated from a developing country to the developed world. That's how the fraud, the scam is working. As you can see, this is a serious labor rights issue. This isn't about the abuse that ended up online occurring between the extremes of this debate that Elon Musk and others, of course, were desperate to jump on as evidence that this is somehow a debate that is really about racism. Shame on them for making this about racism. Last time I checked, I wasn't white. Last time I checked, I'm from South Asia, my family's heritage, from the country next door to India, Pakistan. Last time I checked, this is an issue that is about serious labor rights issues and not race. And that's what we're going to demonstrate. Last time I checked the data, it is indeed the case that discrimination is occurring. You can see there from an article dated October the 7th, 2024 by Bloomberg, headlined, Cognizant, a company in America, discriminated against non-Indian workers, US jury says. Subheading, IT services firm loses LA federal civil rights trial. New Jersey company for years had highest number of H-1B visas. It was found by a US jury that the company that had the highest number of H-1B visas was discriminating against non-Indian workers. This isn't a racism issue. This isn't even really actually a xenophobic issue. This is an issue about unionized domestic US workers, some of whom have had to struggle profoundly to unionize in the tech industry. Look up the recently released documentary on Amazon's union, which didn't even get mainstream distribution. You have to go to some obscure pay-per-view platform to watch it because of how Jeff Bezos and his ilk in Amazon have resisted the unionization of US tech workers. This is a serious labor rights issue. It's not about xenophobia, and it's definitely not about racism. Shame on Musk. Shame on Vivek Ramaswamy, who was also, as you're about to see, was involved in this debate, for making it about racism, again using that cliche against MAGA, that they're just racist deplorables, and thereby trying to escape the real and serious topic here, as a US jury revealed that domestic US workers are being discriminated against for bringing in, discriminated against for Indian migrant workers who are cheaper and more desperate and literally taking their jobs for less. And it is all Indians. The data demonstrates that as well. As you can see again from Robert Sterling, and this is a great thread he put up with lots of data. We're going to put it in the Radical Dispatch receipts tomorrow, don't worry. Reading it for you again, it says, as it turns out, these are all Indian companies that import H-1B tech workers en masse. Look at it again. Cognizant, 93,000. Infosys, 61,000. Tata Consultancy Services, 60,000. Wipro, Capgemini, HCL, Compunal, Tech Mahindra, and Mphasis. These aren't African companies that needed international talent to fill critical roles. Sorry, read that again. These aren't American companies that needed international talent to fill critical roles. They're foreign companies that appear to have been founded to place overseas tech workers into US companies as contractors. They are foreign companies doing this. Again, you can see there, Cognizant, top of your screens. Cognizant Technology Solutions Corporation is an American multinational information technology services and consulting company headquartered in New Jersey. Cognizant is part of the NASDAQ 100 trades. Infosys Limited is an Indian multinational technology company. Wipro Limited is an Indian multinational technology. HCL Technologies Limited is an Indian multinational. It goes on. This is a serious labor rights issue, and yet to divert attention from the genuine labor rights issue, Elon Musk, just like the woke left before him, perhaps the phenomenon he never truly left when he joined MAGA just yesterday, Elon Musk made it about racism. That's on your screens now, an insult to MAGA, using woke left tactics to silence and intimidate criticism by using the racism card. Yes, cut the racism crap now. That's on your screens. And this provoked MAGA so bad that the War Room and Steve Bannon got involved and took this war out to the open. Here's Steve Bannon addressing Elon Musk directly via his War Room. You're calling the MAGA movement racist. How dare you? The coalition is building Black and Hispanic families, and now you want to play the racism card? You think we're going to tolerate that? We're not. And I don't care how big a check you wrote, meaning how much you donated to MAGA in return. And here is Steve Bannon addressing Musk directly on the the fact that Musk used the racism card to try and intimidate you from having a genuine and real conversation about US and UK domestic labor rights.
You're trashing of the MAGA movement. You're calling the MAGA movement racist. How dare you? With the coalition now is starting to build. We have African Americans and Hispanic families, African American men, finally starting to red pill and awaken. And at that moment, you're going to throw the racism card out? Are you kidding me? You think we're going to tolerate that? We're not going to tolerate it. And I don't care. In that regard, I don't.
And Bannon made it clear during that, this was all streaming from Christmas Day, that the debate continued and only calmed down about, let's say, 4 or 5 days later. It continued for days. And Bannon, credit where credit is due. There are things clearly we disagree with Bannon on, but there are many things we also agree with him on. And on this topic, he was hitting the nail on the head, using the War Room, putting out very clear and strong statements on this issue of US tech workers. And here he is summarizing exactly what the problem is. Bannon, the real rot is in engineering schools. Instead of admitting American citizens, Black, Hispanic, and the white working class, they prioritize foreign students who pay full freight, funding professors' salaries and pensions. The whole system is a scam. The system is, as we hope we've demonstrated now to you with data, the system is a scam. And here is Bannon saying exactly that.
The reason they want to do it is they want to bring over indentured servants that don't have the rights of Americans. They want to bring them over here at lower wages, and they fire American citizens. And my whole point, if these the rot is in the engineering schools. Here's Instead of taking American citizens, African Americans, Hispanics, white working class into these engineering schools, who are paying particularly the land grant universities, like schools I went to, where they're paying the state tuition, they take the foreign students because the foreign governments are paying full freight. This is because these deadbeat professors, right, and their retirement program, their tenure, that's how they're paying for it. That's the gap. The whole thing, the entire thing, from top to bottom.
A total scam on behalf of who, may you ask? Well, clearly it's a globalist scam, putting a downward pressure on wages, bringing migrants in to serve corporates, tech companies being at the top of the corporate pyramid these days, is globalism. It's the very definition of globalism. And therefore, it's absolutely no surprise that Elon Musk recently acquired a huge contract from the globalist fund BlackRock. You can see the headline on your screens now. Elon Musk's XAI raises $6 billion in funding from BlackRock, NVIDIA, AMD, and others. Elon Musk's AI venture XAI raises $6 billion in Series C funding round on Monday, December the 23rd. BlackRock being one of the major donors of Elon Musk's AI. 2 days later, Musk starts demanding that H-1B visas migrations go up and double, not go down. Who's he really working for? The good news, the silver lining, by the way, to all of this is that MAGA are now seeing clearly the writing on the wall. Previously, Donald Trump had said this. You can see the date there, 2016. This was Donald Trump's position on it. We're going to read it for you. Megyn Kelly asked about highly skilled immigration. The H-1B program is neither high skilled nor immigration. These are temporary foreign workers imported from abroad for the explicit purpose of substituting for American workers at lower pay. I remain totally committed to eliminating rampant, widespread H-1B abuse and ending outrageous practices such as those that occurred at Disney in Florida when Americans were forced to train their foreign replacements. I will end forever the use of the H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program, no exceptions. No exceptions. And you can see, therefore, it was very clear that President Trump had understood this debate and was absolutely forthright on declaring this scam in 2016. And so the sentiment, America First, can be summarized as opposing the abuse of the H-1B system. That is literally what America First means. And that's why you can see from Jack Posobiec's post here, Buy American, Hire American, December the 28th, 2024. Again, he waded in on this debate against Musk. That simple Hire American, Buy American summary of this summarizes what is we can't put it any, it's a core identity issue for MAGA. It's a basic MAGA premise. You can't be MAGA if you oppose that, and yet Musk has come out opposing it. We've summarized the damage this does in the post that's on your screens now. We'll read it for you. The microeconomic effects of rapid profit maximizing globalization are visible across all of society. The result of this obsession with macroeconomic growth has been a vapid consumerism that has hollowed out the souls and culture of towns and cities everywhere, leaving locals living in crime-filled, decaying environments, bereft and drug addicted, while excessively vulgar metropolitan hubs are out of reach for almost all domestic labor. It is very sad that in recent years, the below sentiment, that is Jack Posobiec's sentiment, Buy American, Hire American, is seen somehow as problematic. Reading that, very few, MAGA at least, but most people, we'd argue, reading that would be unable to relate to exactly that happening to their towns and cities across the nation. When you understand it in that context and you realize, much to shame of Musk and his big tech cabal, globalists, when you realize this isn't about race, it's not about xenophobia, it is about Indians only because, not because people hate Indians, only because it is Indians who are being used in this process to undermine the domestic workers in the US and the UK. when you realize that, when you understand why our towns and cities have become bereft and drug riddled, you realize just how bad it was when they made it about racism. But Musk doubled down. Here is Musk doubling down and calling white men dumb. Should be on your screens about now. And there we are. User Hugo Vale has said, white men aren't being hired anymore. A few months ago, I applied to work for X and noted on my resume that I was retired and didn't require any salary. I have a lot of experience as a mobile developer. Didn't even get a response. Musk responds to white men aren't being hired anymore. We're just dumb. But Musk didn't stop there. What MAGA then witnessed, and any of you who followed this debate this will be the most prominent aspect of the debate that will stick out in your memories, is that Musk proceeded to have an absolute and total online meltdown where he began abusing MAGA in language that was reminiscent of how the Democrats and Hillary Clinton were abusing the MAGA base by calling them deplorables and urging that somehow they're garbage. Remember that one? And less American. Well, here is Musk beginning the degeneration in his language. Musk states on his own profile, yes. Instead of using the word deplorables, he says, yes, and those contemptible fools must be removed from the Republican Party, root and stem. Then, calling them underneath, you can see there, by contemptible fools, I'm referring to those in the Republican Party who are hateful, unrepentant racists. Using the tried and tested technique of throwing out the slur racism, calling them contemptible fools, deplorables, garbage, whatever language you want to use, and saying they must be removed from the Republican Party. And MAGA must be removed from the Republican Party by a man who just joined yesterday, literally joined yesterday, thinks he can buy his way in, and because he's been funding it now, thinks he has a say. But it got even worse than that, and that's the title of today's stream. Musk's meltdown continued, leading to Bannon to say, someone please notify Child Protective Services, need to do a wellness check on this toddler. Why did Bannon say that? Because of what Musk said. You can see it on your screens now. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Musk is a migrant from South Africa, remember that. Take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Yes, that is a real post from Musk on Twitter, dated the 27th of December 2024. By now, 2 days after this debate kicked off on Christmas Day, Elon Musk tells MAGA to go and fuck yourself in the face after calling them contemptible fools. His partner at the government department proposed by Donald Trump, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, that Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, the former US presidential candidate who stood against Trump in the primaries, right? That man. He also waded in to defend his partner Musk, his partner in DOGE, that is. And you can see here from AF Post on your screens, Vivek Ramaswamy suggests Americans are being turned over for foreign workers because they are brought up in a lazy culture, unlike Asian immigrants. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Upon being asked by users, well, if that's the case, if you think we're just not smart enough, then build schools, fund those schools, and train us. We're American, train us. Upon being asked, Musk responded in this way. You can see there by Hag Actual, open a school, we have brains. Musk says if you need a school, you've lost already. In other words, no, still fuck off. I mean, that is literally what this tweet, what this meme depicts. It's a great meme, Jeff Tiedrich on your screen. So if I'm understanding the tech bro position correctly, it's this. You can see the graphic at the top. We can't hire Americans because they're not educated enough. Okay, educate me, says the little man at the bottom. Fuck off, says the big tech bro. It is sad, but that's the position. When MAGA began realizing that Musk had lost his marbles, and in fact that people who had been warning against Musk, like we at Radical Media, but hats off to Bannon, he'd been doing it from day one. Bannon was always warning against Musk. Credit where credit is due, Steve Bannon. Always warning against Musk. When people realized that, Musk's meltdown continued because he basically threw his babies out with he threw his toys out with a pram, or his baby out with the bathwater, and essentially had a complete meltdown, an online hissy fit that is something that perhaps suits a character as fickle as the world's richest published billionaire frontman for globalists would be expected to be. The news, the war became so intense, the online debate became so pronounced that corporatist media even waded in, reporting on it. Here you can see from UK's Sky News, Elon Musk accused of censoring right-wing X accounts who disagree with him on immigration, dated the 28th of December 2024, subheading, at least 14 conservative accounts who criticized Musk's pro-legal immigration views said X, or Twitter, revoked their blue tick, a verification badge given to premium account holders that lets them monetize their accounts. Such was the hissy fit that Musk threw that he started banning accounts that were MAGA accounts that reminded him that what he's proposing is simply the opposite of MAGA, and he just joined yesterday and maybe he should stay in his lane. You can see now, as reported by AF Post, several prominent X or Twitter accounts are reporting that their verification badge and monetization has been revoked after criticizing Musk's pro-mass immigration bent. And there's image of some of those accounts. And of course, this is on the platform that claims free speech. Musk prides himself as being an absolutist when it comes to free speech, weaponizes your concern for free speech to basically push his own narratives, manipulate his algorithms, push his pet political projects, and as we've demonstrated on Radical Media many times, promote the most vile form of anti-Muslim bigotry across Europe so as to incite a civil war in Europe, Muslims versus non-Muslims, and that would help globalists to bring in more of their authoritarian technocracy as the solution to the civil war in Europe that Musk would have promoted between Muslims and non-Muslims. He did it during the Southport riots in the UK. He did it after the Magdeburg market attack in Germany. You can see, look back to Radical Media, you can see all of the receipts for that there. So the man who weaponized free speech, champions it, claims he's the defender of free speech, weaponizes it to incite riots across Europe, and then abuses those who insults those who challenge him by saying you're anti-free speech. Meanwhile, those who oppose him, he bans and censors on his own platform, as you can see. All of this, as we say, the silver lining is people have now seen it for themselves. Among the most prominent was Laura Loomer. You can see, again, many disagreements with her, obviously, but you can see on your screens, X or Twitter lied to all of my subscribers and sent out a message to all of them and said that I personally shut off their subscriptions. That's a malicious lie. I didn't do that. Twitter or X ended my subs and took away my check. They are lying to users about what happened. It's unethical. At least people can now see what this man Musk is about. It's not about free speech. It's about using Twitter for his own and globalists' propaganda. And he's admitted as much. Look at this post from him. It says, just a reminder, dated the 26th of December, day after the debate kicked off on Christmas Day. Musk says, just a reminder that the algorithm is trying to maximize unregretted user seconds. If far more credible, verified subscriber accounts, not bots, mute or block your account. Compared to those who like your posts, your reach will decline significantly. Effectively admitting the shadow banning on his own platform because, as this user read, summarizes, here's how this works. The minority, the big accounts, now wield disproportionate power through their minion armies, often organized in private chat groups. These groups coordinate to ensure that you, the majority, the smaller accounts, are systematically silenced. They achieve this through tactics like mass blocking and mass muting, which effectively bury your voice in the algorithm, making sure your posts are never seen or heard again. This system benefits the platform because it allows them to maintain plausible deniability. They can claim, hey, our hands are clean, while enabling those coordinated efforts to suppress dissent. The grifter whales, those large manipulative accounts, essentially act as enforcers, eliminating dissident voices without the platform having to directly intervene. You are invisible because those people don't like you. He didn't like getting owned by that small account. That, in our experience, is probably the among those who have been the most heavily shadow banned for perhaps the longest period on Twitter. And don't be fooled by our blue check. That was provided for free when Twitter changed its policy and said that those accounts that have enough blue check followers will get an automatic blue check. We don't pay for Twitter Premium. But our account is among the most heavily shadow banned, and that, in our experience, is a accurate summary of how it occurs. The shadow banning is beyond control on Twitter. Twitter is not a level playing field. It is not a fair and free platform. It is a unlevel playing field where the algorithm is abused and used and manipulated to promote Musk's pet projects and to push out propaganda that is pro-Likudnik Zionist, warmongering, war criminal Netanyahu, is anti-Muslim across Europe. Musk himself is an anti-Muslim. We've demonstrated that time and time again on the Warrior Creed stream and Radical Media. All the receipts are there. Go back to majidnawaz.substack.com, look at last week's article on the Magdeburg terrorist, and see how Musk manipulated that debate to make you believe it was about Muslims, when it was an ex-Muslim that did it. 18 years, an ex-apostate Muslim, an atheist, a pro-Netanyahu atheist, did the Magdeburg Christmas terror attack. But you wouldn't know that looking at Musk's feed. So the algorithm is abused. It's weaponized to silence critical voices, though our account isn't a small account. Its are less than some very small accounts. Which looks like it's been lost. Yep, we're back. So we're talking about accounts and how they're being shadow banned, and of course, just checking the connection is still there. Yep, we're back. Talking about accounts and how they've been shadow banned. Our account, among the most heavily shadow banned, and for the longest, Musk slashes our followers regularly for criticizing him. The account is totally, the platform Twitter is totally manipulated, and Musk has effectively admitted it with this post that we're going to read again for you now because it will make a lot more sense. Just a reminder that the algorithm is trying to maximize unregretted user seconds. If far more credible, verified subscriber accounts, not bots, mute or block your account compared to those who like your posts, your reach will decline significantly. Many on the right are missing the point of this debate entirely. Among those was Charlie Kirk, the US leader for Turning Point US. Charlie Kirk posts, "If I was a smart leftist, I would go all in on trying to create a schism between MAGA and tech world. We must resist this. It's an op. Our coalition will naturally have differing opinions. Together, we beat the Democrats in November, and now together we will save America." That is again a distraction. It is not an op. It is not a left-wing triggered debate. And we've summarized that for Charlie Kirk and any others in doubt with this post on the screens for you now. No, the left did not start this. We did. This is not a mere leftist promoted schism if it's about defending one of the core fundamental premises that defines MAGA, which is anti-globalism, aka anti-pharaonic, technocratic, one world surveillance state, digital perma-slavery. Besides, Musk is the one currently amplifying Soros-backed leftists against MAGA, not the other way around. And that's something that Raheem Kassam, a long-time MAGA voice from before Trump became president in 2016, is how long Raheem Kassam has been behind MAGA. He went on Bannon's War Room and said exactly that. It's Elon Musk who's propping up anti-Trump activists in the H-1B visa fight, not those who are criticizing him. And you can have a listen to Kassam saying exactly that right here.
Points to make here are that, number one, MAGA remains united. It is the Johnny-come-latelys, the people who kind of want to stroke a check to get their policies pushed, to get their government contracts, to get their friends' positions, who are causing this rift in the broader coalition here. And I think that's worth reminding ourselves of. The second part of this is, you have to look at this not just as people who want mass uncontrolled migration, as Musk appears to be throwing his shoulder to the wheel of, by the way. And there's far more than what you just read out. I mean, I was going through his X feed this morning of things he was just posting last night, and he's retweeted this chap Noah Smith, an economic blogger, who has just screeds and screeds of anti-Trump stuff, not just on his blog, all over his X, and he says, I will follow Elon Musk into battle over this issue, and Elon Musk is retweeting it. So now we're seeing them conscripting in anti-Trump activists to their H-1B. And by the way, it's not just H-1B. It's a massive immigration battle that's going on right now over the Christmas and New Year break. But these are the people, Steve, who want to follow the British political establishment, the Brussels political establishment, in turning America into kind of another Singapore-on-Thames kind of deal, right? For them, it's just an economy. For them, it's just a way to make money. For them, there is no culture. There is no such thing as an American citizen. There is no such thing as American history. This, for them, is a moment. And by the way, don't take my word for it, ladies and gentlemen. Go to Elon Musk's X feed yourself. Click on the reply section, go through all of it, and look at the things he is saying about what it means to be an American. For him, it's literally just about an economic unit of measurement. Now, listen, this has to be taken as part of a wider piece here, because this isn't just about one Indian guy who's immigrated, who they want to put in as an AI advisor into the White House. This is about hundreds of thousands of H-1B visas, H-2B visas. I mean, they were even finding E3 visas yesterday for Chippendales, strippers, male strippers coming in to Las Vegas from Australia. Now this has caused such a fight that people are going through the detail on these things. And one of the things we're going to be doing in the next couple of days is actually going through all the H-1B data over the last couple of years and saying, okay, so you've had hundreds of thousands of people every year coming into the country, and especially looking at this database and looking at where they're going. But question about all of this is, what's enough? Where does it stop? How many hundreds of thousands of engineers and technicians and coders and all? Right. Exactly. That's the buried lead. That's the hidden message. For them, it never stops. And that means for them, there is no America. There is no culture. There is no integration. There is no assimilation. How many H-1B visa holders, right, are part of those little platoons that you talked about in the first thing? How many are getting involved in their communities?
Zero.
How many are building?
Zero.
How many are part of the U.S.
Zero.
military? How many people are actually doing the work to be, civil society leaders? Zero. They're in it for a check. They're in it for a job. They're in it for their visas and their green.
Strong words there from fellow Brit Raheem Kassam from the National Pulse on Bannon's War Room. And you can see there these themes, that it's a globalist pressure on wages to keep downward pressure on wages sustained so that you outprice domestic workers and bring in cheap, dependent labor from abroad, which is the globalist project in its entirety. They, of course, want to maximize profit, and that in turn erodes communities, culture, and identity nationally by leaving domestic workers outpriced from the job market. It is very interesting to see those who waded in to defend Elon Musk during this time are the usual suspects. Sycophants and online surrogates notwithstanding, there were also other individuals who are increasingly becoming sycophants of Musk and the big tech bros. Tim Pool waded in to defend Musk, and he said Elon bought Twitter and brought back shitloads of really good people. All the complaints right now mean jack shit, considering his actions gave us the Twitter files and helped uncover illegal and unconstitutional government collusion. There is a concerted effort to rip apart the coalition that just delivered Trump a popular mandate, and people need to chill and recognize that. Again, peddling the fact that this is an op. We can have a meaningful debate on these issues, and while, of course, censorship is bad, we have to, since completely glossing over the fact that Elon nuked entire accounts. Our response to that was clear because, of course, Tim Pool is incorrect that it was Elon that revealed the Twitter files and indeed saved the day on that issue. It's a matter of public record. We've said it there. Nope, the Twitter files were a mere containment measure, an appropriation of what we had already revealed to Joe Rogan, episode 1780, about Twitter being run by Intel assets to control and direct globalist narratives. They never stopped. They just tried to band-aid their operation by replacing Dorsey with Musk. Before any of this happened by years, before Musk even purchased Twitter, on episode 70 of Joe Rogan, we already revealed how Twitter was being weaponized by Intel agencies to push out predefined globalist narratives. As a reminder for Tim Pool and any others who wish to validate the containment measure that was Musk who was brought into Twitter to contain this debate exploding, the appropriation of the Twitter being used as propaganda story was in origin about this.
Fear. But it gets better. Why do they use the word military grade, yeah? So this so far establishes that, because intent's not relevant for me at this point, right? All I'm describing to you is what happened. Why were people scared?
Okay.
Yeah? You know, you could be well-intentioned in doing this, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes.
Right? My point isn't about intentions or conspiracy. This is just what happened. And people need to know that they were manipulated, whether for good or bad intention. That they were manipulated in a way that the people that did it are now expressing regret because they know that this is coming out. So they're trying to get ahead of the curve and admit that they did it. Now, here's another interesting one, right? So there's an MP in the Parliament, in the British Parliament. His name's Tobias Ellwood. He's a Conservative MP. Now, on his own Twitter page, he announces, I'll just read it for you. No point Googling this, I'll just read it for you. On his own, he's got a Twitter page. He announces, delighted to be promoted to Lieutenant Colonel as a reservist in the 77 Brigade. An honour to continue serving Her Majesty's Armed Forces, the most professional in the world, right? What's the 77 Brigade? Well, you go to their website, and they tell you what they are. Groups within 77 Brigade, and I'll just read a bit here for you. This is on their own website, yeah? Digital Operations Group provide a specialist capability to deliver influence, activity, and products across a broad range of communications channels. Web Ops Team. The Web Ops Team collects information and understands audience sentiment in the virtual domain. Right? With the extent OSINT, that's open source intelligence, policy framework, they may engage with audiences in order to influence perceptions to support operational outcomes. Now, the question is here, you've got a British MPs involved in a military PSYOPs unit called the 77th. Now I'm going to tell you something about Twitter, because we mentioned Twitter, yeah? This is an article in the Middle East Eye. I'll read a direct quote for you. The date is, as it pulls up open here, 30th of September 2019, Middle East Eye. The article's by Ian Cobain, and it's headlined, Twitter Executive for Middle East is British Army PSYOPs Soldier. Part-time officer has worked on behavioural change projects in the region. Gordon Macmillan, who joined Twitter, the social media company's UK office 6 years ago, has for several years also served with the 77th Brigade, a unit formed in 2015 to develop non-lethal ways of waging war. Now, I've just read for you the 77th is engaged in information operations.
Look at this.
And a Twitter executive is a member of the 77th.
A PSYOP soldier.
And this is why I said to you, military-grade psychological operations. Not just any psychological operations. This is why people have become so scared.
That's the op, Tim. That story was revealed before Musk took over Twitter. That's the origin of the Twitter file stories that you want to now credit Musk for. That's the op. The op is that military-grade psychological operations were being deployed over Twitter to scare us all into compliance during the COVID mandate period, and people like we were cancelled for breaking open that story. That's the op. It's a containment and appropriation measure. Musk is the op, Tim. Again, now, if I read for you my response to Tim, The Twitter files were a mere containment measure, an appropriation of what we had already revealed to Joe Rogan episode 1780 about Twitter being run by Intel assets to control and direct globalist narratives. They never stopped. They just tried to band-aid their operation by replacing Dorsey with Musk. They band-aid the operation. They took out Dorsey, put Musk in place. Musk is doing exactly the same thing. And here's another receipt for you. As reported by Reuters, 26th of November, 2024, Musk uses X or Twitter to push his preferred political picks. Trump isn't always swayed. Musk is using Twitter for his personal views to push out who he wants and how he wants for debates and positions in Trump's administration. The op that Twitter was being used for military-grade psychological operations is still ongoing. Instead of Dorsey doing it during COVID, it's now Musk doing it to try and steer MAGA, as you can see, away from being MAGA and back to being globalists. They literally joined the Republican Party yesterday, and they think they can tell you what to do. Because the truth is, the op never stopped. Musk has always been and remains a globalist. And you can see on your screens now what we've said, that even war criminal globalist Netanyahu recognizes that. Prime Minister of Israel and war criminal Netanyahu laughs as he labels Elon Musk the unofficial president of the United States. I'm going to play for you Netanyahu doing exactly that, so you can see exactly how that works. In fact, we don't seem to. No, we've got a different video of that, and that is when Musk went to, if you remember, when Musk went to Congress and Netanyahu was addressing Congress. He was again the personal guest of Netanyahu. Now, keep in mind that when Netanyahu addressed Congress, Trump didn't attend the congressional address, but rather made Netanyahu go to Mar-a-Lago to meet him. But here is Musk demonstrating that he is indeed the premium guest of Netanyahu.
Netanyahu address today?
I am.
You plan to attend?
I do.
And whose guest are you?
Netanyahu.
Okay.
Remember that time when Netanyahu addressed the joint session of Congress? Musk went, Douglas Murray went. They were front row guests of Netanyahu. Trump didn't attend. Instead, he made Netanyahu fly to Mar-a-Lago to meet him there rather than attend Netanyahu's address in Congress. Netanyahu has joked openly that Musk is the real president of the United States. What's happening is this is a Trojan horse attempt by globalists to steer the conversation using a weaponized Twitter to steer it away from MAGA and back towards the globalist agenda. So that is what's happening, and it's been something that Musk has been open about for many years, but it's finally breaking through. We've been on this. We reminded everybody. You can see this from 2022, December the 11th, 2022. Elon Musk, we posted on our socials. Elon Musk said, "We will coup whoever we want, deal with it." And we've said the new gods are the same as the old gods, and sycophants will always sycophant. There is Musk saying, "We will coup whoever we want, deal with it." This is a dyed-in-the-wool globalist, folks, now running the most powerful communications weapon on the planet, and that is Twitter, which is being used and weaponized to subject all of us, you, to military-grade psychological operations. The new Jack Dorsey is Elon Musk, who also happens to be a technocrat, who believes in transhumanism, who wants to chip your brain and connect you to AI, and who believes, for example, in electric cars being the solution to the net zero scam. The man is the archetypal globalist technocrat. Trump was bumped by Murdoch's New York Post into wading into this debate, and the headline that then came out was used to calm the debate. You can see on your screens now the New York Post reported on the 28th of December, when the debate began to calm, it fully ended on the 29th. Trump supports immigration visas backed by Musk. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. AF Post responded to this and said this should not come as a surprise, considering Trump pledged to increase legal immigration throughout his 2024 presidential campaign. In 2016, as we've already referenced, he opposed the H-1B visa program on the grounds that it undercut American workers. During his first term, he imposed stricter rules on eligibility and revoked it completely in 2020 during the pandemic. Now, in 2024, Trump, after receiving tens of millions in campaign donations from Silicon Valley, the biggest beneficiary of H-1B labor, is poised to expand the program like never before. Money talks. Clearly it does for Trump. But here is President Trump, as we read for you earlier, rejecting H-1B visas in 2016.
For decades, this company has served the needs of American workers. It's time we had a federal government that does the same. The Buy and Hire American order I'm about to sign will help protect workers and students like those of you in the audience today. This historic action declares that the policy of our government is to aggressively promote and use American-made goods and to ensure that American labor is hired to do the job. Right now, widespread abuse in our immigration system is allowing American workers of all backgrounds to be replaced by workers brought in from other countries to fill the same job for sometimes less pay. This will stop. American workers have long called for reforms to end these visa abuses, and today their calls are being answered for the first time.
That was Trump in 2016. So how do you square that with him now saying he backs Musk? Well, apart from the fact the New York Post clearly bumped Trump into that position, AF Post, as they say, believe it comes down to the billions that Silicon Valley, after realizing that Trump wasn't getting assassinated, wasn't going to be jailed, wasn't going to be moved out of the way, after realizing that he was going to be the next president, Silicon Valley, Musk included, jumped ship and think that their money can buy MAGA. That's literally what's going on. And that's why Trump's current position is the opposite of his 2016 position. But astute observers have noted something. Ashley St. Clair, here on your screens now, says Trump said he has tons of H-1B workers on his properties. His property workers have J-1 visas. John Levine is an idiot and hack for calling Trump with no context and zero follow-up questions. Make a disaster PR cycle when this isn't even Trump's position. Leading us to comment what we think has happened. It's on your screens now. It's interesting, we say. In his reported New York Post recent intervention, endorsing H-1B visas, contrary to his 2016 position criticizing the H-1B visa system, it appears that President Trump may have conflated H-2B visas, which his companies do use for seasonal hires in the service industry, with H-1B visas. If this turns out to be the case, then perhaps Trump's primary motive for speaking out was to calm the storm, after which Musk posted a concession that major reform is needed. And you can look for yourselves. We performed the search. There is the H-1B salary database for 2024. You put in company Trump. There is no H-1B visa. Trump does not use them, contrary to what he said on in this headline to the New York Post. So Trump appears to have mixed up the visas he's using. His 2016 position was certainly against the H-1B visa system. But Silicon Valley, after donating billions, appears to have at least temporarily swayed Trump to intervene in this debate to calm things down. Calm things down it did, but MAGA are not relenting. They have now been called the equivalent of deplorables, contemptible fools, that is, by Elon Musk, and things will never return to the day before Christmas. MAGA now sees Musk with his mask off. But Trump's intervention did lead to a concession by Elon Musk. The concession is on your screens now. You can see the date there, the 28th of November, 2024. Musk wades in with a concession. He says it's easily fixed, that is the abuse in the system, easily fixed by raising the minimum salary significantly and adding a yearly cost for maintaining the H-1B, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. It's been very clear that the program is broken and needs major reform. So that was Musk attempting to provide a concession after Trump calmed the debate down. That is a far cry from Musk saying, fuck yourselves in the face, as he did, or calling everybody contemptible fools who need to be removed from the Republican Party. And so effectively, that's where the debate settled. But as we say, MAGA has been forever changed. Things will not go back to the day before Christmas for Elon Musk. MAGA is now fully alert to the globalist that is Elon Musk. And people are understanding the importance of this immigration debate. It's become a hot topic to curtail legal immigration for the sake of domestic worker rights. Something we've been talking about at least since 2008. You can see on your screens now. Since the founding of Quilliam in 2008, we've been urging governments to realize that integration and, more importantly, a genuine sense of belonging need a chance to catch up with the unprecedented speed of immigration into the West. Without this, the domestic social contract breaks apart, families decay, communities crumble, and society falls, all of which we can currently sense, by the way. To read on, this can only be achieved if it's coupled with an end to the disastrous and morally repugnant imperial wars that we have waged in the home countries of said migrants. With the third Trump presidency, this view is now mainstreamed and finally about to become transatlantic policy. The final piece of the puzzle will be in place once Nigel Farage is PM in the UK. This will happen soon. The shadow knows. It is now a mainstream topic to talk about legal immigration and H-1B visas. That's another silver lining in this debate, as is, by the way, that MAGA now understands exactly who Elon Musk is. And that same tech workers' rights profile has posted some proposed reforms to the currently broken system. Here is a proposal, they say, US tech workers. Here is a proposal on how the Trump administration can institute H-1B reform without Congress. In other words, without congressional legislation to eliminate H-1B as a system. Through formal rulemaking, Congress should work on reform too, or quite frankly, just gut the entire program. Suggestion number one, tighten the definition regarding specialty occupations. 2, raise the lowest prevailing wage level to the 75th percentile for the occupation and local area. 3, require companies that lease H-1Bs from Indian IT outsourcing firms to also have to file for H-1B visas petitions for each worker they lease. 4, establish proper employer-employee relationship, maintaining a clear employer-employee relationship. Even when the employee is working off-site, employer must still have control over the employee, even if they're working off-site at client's location. 5, they've written it as 4. What they really mean is 5, increase the application fee to enter the visa lottery to $500 per beneficiary. 6, H-1B lottery selection should be based on highest wages offered and qualifications. 7, increase worksite visits. 8, bring back H-1B abuse tip line service. And 9, get rid of STEM, opt, and allow OPT work authorizations limited to 6 months. These are all very sensible suggestions for reform of the H-1B system by US tech workers. An account online, and it does appear as if the 2016 Trump position against H-1B can be reconciled with the eventual concession that Elon Musk made, saying yes, he agrees that the system does need reform. He says, I've been very clear that the program is broken and needs major reform. Of course, a far cry from telling everyone to fuck themselves in the face and blaming racism instead. But as we say, the silver lining is that MAGA has now seen Musk with his mask off. That much is never going to go away. We leave you with the wise words here of Steve Bannon.
Again, brother, I'm smart enough to tell you no to your face, and I'm evil enough to be able to expose you as a running dog for the greatest enemy this nation's ever had. You're a war profiteer. You're sleeping with the enemy, brother, and you've been doing it because you're not an American nationalist. You're not even an American. All you are is a globalist.
That's Steve Bannon in his war room about Elon Musk. That's all we've got time for this week's Warrior Creed live stream. We hope it's been very informative for you. As you can see, it is a very serious labor rights subject. It isn't about racism and xenophobia. Do not believe the lies of those globalists who are seeking to usurp, hijack, monopolize, and then steer MAGA. MAGA knows what it's doing. These people who joined yesterday should wait in line, stay in their lanes, and listen to the people. We'll be back next week with a regular Warrior Creed live stream back in the home studio. You've been listening to The Radical. Majid Nawaz. We encourage everybody to check out the written version of this stream with all the receipts via majidnawaz.substack.com, where we host all Radical Media content. We ask all of you to become premium subscribers of Radical Media via majidnawaz.substack.com, from which you get the full written Radical Dispatch, including the material behind the paywall and access to this Warrior Creed live stream in audio-visual podcast format and extra exclusive Radical Media content. Until next week, thank you very much for listening. This has been Majid Nawaz for Warrior Creed.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.